Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another A&Q. Now this series is all about answering your questions when it comes to Christianity and life and spirituality, you name it. And we found that whenever we get answers, sometimes more questions come up, and that's okay. So keep sending us your questions. Let's keep making progress in this together. But for now, let's take on this topic. What is baptism? Now, maybe you've seen pictures or scenes from a movie where people are doing this and you've wondered, what's the significance of that? Why is that a thing in the Christian faith? Well, since the very beginning of the church, baptism has been like a public initiation rite of the Christian faith. In fact, it's one of two deeply symbolic rituals we see Jesus very clearly telling his followers that they should do, the other one being communion. In one really famous verse called the Great Commission, Jesus tells his followers, go and spread this good news and hope throughout the world. But attached to this mission is also the command to baptize those who believe in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, like I said, this was a deeply symbolic act. So when you see baptism in its earliest form, men and women would be completely immersed, plunged down into a body of water. Now that's what the word really means. In the Greek, the word baptizo means to immerse, to dunk, to plunge. So whether this happened in a lake or a river or an ancient pool called a mikveh, it was supposed to be a picture that someone had died to their old life and now they're coming up out of the water in what the Bible calls the newness of life. It's like washing away sin or washing away your old life and starting fresh. A really beautiful symbol if you think about it. But maybe one question is, does that symbolic act of baptism have to do anything with being saved? That's a great question. In the Bible, we read that salvation, eternity with God, is based on one thing and one thing only: accepting the free gift of grace and Jesus' forgiveness. There's nothing you can do to earn this grace, which would include baptism. So rather, baptism is like an outward, ancient, physical symbol of that moment of surrendering your life to God. That's why the biblical pattern is that people believed and then they were baptized. A really good way to say it is this: baptism is like an outward declaration of an inward decision. So, no, baptism in and of itself does not save you or get you into heaven. So then why is this so important? Well, because it's such a beautiful way to express to the world around you that you belong to Jesus now. The challenge is for us to not keep a decision like that private. Now, maybe you've heard that Jesus was baptized. It's true. You can read about it in the chapter 3 of the very first book in your New Testament, Matthew. So why would he do that? Well, that was his way of showing his people that he identified with them. I'm right there with you. You and me are in this together. That's the invitation that Jesus gives us. We get to do life with him. Which means, by the way, that's why these questions that we're asking here are so important. See, it's true that the water of baptism isn't magical. It doesn't change your status with God. Faith in Jesus does that, and faith alone. But nevertheless, I've heard countless people describe their baptism experience as being overwhelmed with the presence of God. It's like they're dripping in his grace. Now, one more question related to this. Maybe you've heard about some other traditions of baptism that are more geared towards the baptizing of babies. Maybe you've heard the word confirmation being connected to this. Over the course of time, different church traditions have arrived at different ideas of how baptism is practiced in the life of the church. Now, for some, this is a way for parents to publicly commit their child to being raised in the Christian faith. The truth is, this can be a bit of a challenging conversation between different Christian traditions. But what really matters is that we take the words of Jesus seriously as we participate in this beautiful practice, and that we continue to celebrate and tell this story of grace as people come to a place of faith, of trusting in Jesus, and as they begin to walk with him in the newness of life. So, with that, I'm curious to know what other questions this might lead to. So let us know. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Subscribe, stay tuned, and we'll be back with more A&Q videos. All right? We'll see you next time.